Nicole near Landfall in the Bahamas. Tropical Storm Nicole is just off hurricane status in the Atlantic and is about to swipe through the northernmost Bahamas, about to make landfall on Great Abaco as a strong tropical storm, currently at 26.6 north, 76.9 degrees west as of 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time this November the 9th. 70 mile per hour winds and a pressure of 986 millibars, moving west-southwest at 7 miles per hour, that's 11 kilometers per hour, and is expected to reach hurricane status later this afternoon before making landfall on the central east coast of Florida tonight. Here's its current location relative to the map, and you can see those enormous wind fields out to 360 nautical miles northeastern side. We actually don't have a graphic big enough for the northwestern side. It's actually 400 up there, which extends further than that graphic shows. It's currently just 13 miles from Marsh Harbor, which is where Dorian made landfall 3 years ago, 107 miles from Freeport, 195 from West Palm Beach, 231 from Miami, and 353 from Tampa. Hurricane warnings are in effect along the east coast of Florida and those northern Bahamas. Also accompanying them, storm surge warnings also in effect for North Palm Beach to Altamaha Sound and for St. Johns River to Georgetown in Florida. But the biggest threat is still damaging winds from potential hurricane conditions in the northern Bahamas shortly and along the coast of Florida by tonight. A storm surge of up to 5 feet is also forecasted. That prediction hasn't risen. It still stays at 5 feet for a potential storm surge along that east coast. So 2 big threats there, along with the rainfall, which we'll look into a little bit later on in this video. Look at the forecast then. This is where we expect the storm will go in the next few days, moving into the end of the week there. The storm continuing to turn post-tropical after weakening to a depression in the southeastern United States and then moving right out there over the northern Atlantic as it moves off the coast of Atlantic Canada. So it will weaken gradually after it makes landfall and then very quickly as it finally moves through the Florida Panhandle. National Hurricane Center are expecting it to weaken to a depression by the time we get to Friday and turn post-tropical shortly afterwards. Most observations supporting 70 miles per hour except ADT, which appeared to have dropped the ball here and are only going with 39 miles per hour for some reason, or 38 miles per hour. Goodness knows why, but that's what the ADT is showing up right now. I can tell you definitely it is wrong. Here is another graphic showing the wind speed probabilities, and pretty much a very large chunk of Florida there under 90% chances of tropical storm force winds, including Orlando and probably Lakeland there as well. So large parts of Florida there underneath that 90% from pretty much Jupiter northwards. Here's the latest models showing what happens from this point forward, and it's becoming a little bit less mysterious. There's obviously much less of the forecast to be looking at now, much more certainty as the storm moves through the Florida Peninsula. Will it move out over the Gulf or not? It's still too close to call, and then it will sweep up through the northeastern United States. The track has certainly shifted westwards out for that later part of the forecast, and we're definitely going to be seeing more impacts inland rather than along the coast. Here is a mock-up of what the reflectivity might look like. Some of those red zones, that shows very high rain rates, and it really gets stretched north to south as it becomes post-tropical, moving off towards the northeast there. But if you're in any of those red zones during this period, that could be very high rain rates, and we always look for the potential for flash flooding if we're getting really high rain rates there. It's not necessarily the amount of rain, but it's at the rate that it falls that can sometimes determine things like that. And moving on to the total expected precipitation then, we're still looking at similar numbers to what we've been seeing in recent model runs. Of course, some of it's starting to fall now as well, so these numbers will be revised down in some parts of Florida a little bit because we're already seeing some of that come to fruition. So further rainfall amounts of 4 to 5 inches expected in the northern Bahamas and in large parts of Florida, and then extending all the way through the Appalachian Mountains and then through the northeastern United States. You can see here on the graphic in most parts of Georgia there we're looking at 4 inches now, and right up into eastern Ohio even we could be looking at significant amounts of rain pushing that 4-inch threshold and getting towards 2 inches into Atlantic Canada. Sea surface temperatures are still only marginal as the storm makes landfall, around 25 to 26 degrees Celsius. Temperatures are much cooler in the northern Gulf of Mexico, so the storm won't get any relief there. The only place that's still warmer is just off the coast of Jacksonville thanks to the Gulf Stream, and the storm looks like it's going to go further west than that, so we should see a decent weakening trend after the storm makes landfall tonight. Of course, temperatures much colder further north, as is the case usually this time of year. Check some satellite imagery then, and this is how the storm is looking right now, and it's clearly opening up that eye, and you can see some radar there along the coast of Florida. Quite a few showers and potential severe storms moving through the Miami-Dade area from the north after moving through Fort Lauderdale and the like. But generally, most of the main part of the storm is still yet to reach Florida. The Bahamas now starting to see it on Great Abaco Island, and you can see on the visible imagery just how it's looking. The eye starting to appear. It's looking much better than it was last night when we were covering it live. As I was expecting, I mean, it was wishful thinking that it would completely fall apart, and here it is again with more established convection, particularly on the western side and on the southern side, a bit of banding on the north. There is still 1 or 2 areas that are lacking, you could say, a little bit on the northeastern side, struggling a little bit, and I believe that is still an open eye. Radar returns aren't showing us too much of the eye structure just yet, but we will get to see a much clearer picture on what that will look like later today. But for the time being, that's what Nicole currently looks like, and we'll have live coverage and more video updates on the Force 13 channel later on today.